Hello and welcome to the Round 6 halftime show. It's great to have your company. This week, Blake couldn't make it, so we've got a special guest, Emily Frost she's the club captain from the Rosebuds. Of course, it's the women in football round this round, and we're doing an interview with Emily I did an interview with Emily, and that's going to be on Wednesday night, so make sure you all tune in for that match between Charlestown and South Cardiff at halftime, and you'll see all of that sort of stuff and chats about the Women's Premier League as well. Now it's time to go into the results of the round round 5. We had the Jaffas and Magic in the battle of the heavyweights, a 2-2 draw there. And then we had the Jets Youth and Charlestown, a 3-1 win to the Jets Youth. I'll leave the Rosebuds match just for a sec because I've got to speak to Emily about that one. And we had, I'll speak about the Western match, Western with a 1-0 win over Maitland, in a match which won't go down as one of the best of the season. It was a little bit on the boring side. But if you want to see that one online, that's on the BarTV YouTube channel. And the coaches' interviews are all there to have a look back at that. Of course, Maitland yet to get off the mark this season, so they're under a little bit of pressure. And Western, on the other hand, up close to the top in second spot. Hamilton Olympic in the final match got a 5-2 win over South Cardiff, so it'll be interesting to see how South Cardiff do go this year because they've got a couple of draws and they've struggled the past couple of rounds, and even in the FFA Cup they were knocked over 5-0 by Edgeworth. So that'll be interesting. This is the thing I wanted to speak about, Emily. 2-0 Edgeworth over Adamstown. Adamstown, with all those players, they're struggling at the moment. What would you put that down to?
Yeah, I really don't know what it comes down to. I think they're training well. They're having some really good movement. I think sometimes they're just lacking that that creativity in the final third. Sometimes it seems to be breaking down a little bit, and switching off at the back sometimes is causing them a few problems in terms of not keeping a clean sheet. But otherwise, they're playing some really good football. It's just a shame they haven't been able to pull a couple of wins out of some of those games.
Well, we had Adamstown's match against Hamilton Olympic a couple of weeks ago, and they played really well that night, and they only just went down to Broadmeadow, I think it was a couple of nights ago, and that almost made me cry. Yeah. The way they lost that one, Chris Berlin scored in about the 95th minute after they led 2-0.
Yeah, the injury time goal, it would have been a heartbreaker. But I think they have had those quality teams. Olympic and Magic are both obviously, heavyweights in this competition. So for them to get really close results is a good sign for them. And when they come up against some of the teams, at the same level or just below them, I think they're going to do really well.
Is there a bit of pressure on Graham Law?
I think there's always going to be a little bit of pressure on Graham Law, but I think he'll be able to handle it, and he knows what he's doing, and he'll be able to, produce the results when it's important.
Well, he took Maitland to the title last year. They only lost one game the whole season, so that was in the NewFM division. So I'm sure Graham and all those new players as well. They've got to have time to sort of mingle and get that structure together. Now it's time to have a look at an interview we did with Chris Turner. One of our reporters, Jack, did an interview with Chris Turner, the Maitland coach, about him leaving the club, and here it is now.
Well, we're joined here by Chris Turner, the former coach of the Maitland Magpies here on BarTV, and thanks for joining us, Chris. It's been a big few weeks in northern New South Wales football and a big few weeks at the Maitland Magpies. Tell us about the decision to part ways with.
Yeah, sure. Look, the decision was a joint one. We just got to a point where we felt that between us things were going to go okay without me. So at the beginning, when we were first engaged or we were talking, and that was in August last year, my job was to come in and do a couple of things. One was to, bring some experience that they didn't have at the club at the time, and the other thing was the other big thing was just to make sure we were going to be at a point where we would be competitive at that level. So having some recent experience in that area, they thought that I would be a good choice to fill that role for them.
Now, you also talk about that fact, having that experience. You've got a bit of top grade experience. Tell us a little bit about that.
I've coached at Broadmeadow in reserve grade and under 23s, coached at Gahiba. Then I went to Lake Macquarie and coached over there for a few years. At Lake Macquarie, that was really, really cool. We had a year, the club's pure intention was to get promoted. We went through that season without dropping a point, in fact, so no draws, just all wins. And we had some amazing players and some really good people at the club. So that year was very successful. Then we got promoted, and then we ran second in that following year. ended up getting beat in the end by Broadmeadow, who deservedly won that season, but we held the top spot for a good part of it. So we had that transition, and going back to Maitland, I think that they could see that I'd been there and done that one before, and knew what it looked like.
Fantastic. Now, you also mentioned there I shouldn't say mention, but how long was the club chasing you for? Maitland obviously keen to bring that experience to their new top division team.
We spoke for a while. I mean, they'd spoken to other coaches as well. I think mainly Damien Smith, but and he and I were talking around that time. And for me, I couldn't see it as a possibility. When I got the initial phone call, I was in Victoria, in country Victoria, and there was no way. If I wanted to get home, it's 10 hours away, so it's just not going to happen. But they kept coming up with solutions, and I think a period over a few weeks to a month. It got to the point where I thought, maybe this can work. Reece Thompson was a big part of all of that. He was definitely going to hold the reins whilst I was away. So, probably about a month, but, there was some fairly strong conditions in there, yeah.
Now, you talk about Reece Thompson. Obviously, the plan all along was to build him up so that he could coach the team in a full-time first-grade top coach position. Yeah,
that definitely was the plan. And you know what? We got to a point recently where I was just looking at it. We decided he would run all of the sessions at training and I'd oversee them. So for me, travelling and then coming back, if I'm only away one session every few weeks or whatever, just to have that consistency at training and whatever, he delivers all that, and then I just look at it, and eventually got to the point where, what am I actually, how important is my input? And looking at Reece and where he's up to, I think my opinion is he was good to go.
Fantastic. We'll take a cut. Now, you're obviously finding it tough to balance work and coaching at the top level. The club was obviously aware of this when they took you on.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's tough balancing it. It's been a known what we're going to do and how we're going to manage it. So, I don't think it's tough. It's just one of those cases where, look, I had something that potentially they wanted and I was able to fill it for them. But is it ideal? No, not really. Upon reflection, I think that it might have been a lot better for the club to get someone that can give it all of their attention, not just some of it.
Fantastic. Now, that probably brings that underlying issue. There is that thing about that professionalism. The sport is very quickly moving forward, and unfortunately a lot of the time there isn't the money there to back it up. In Sydney, we've seen NPL coaches and coaching staff are all full-time and paid. Do you think the Northern New South Wales NPL will ever get to that stage?
We could do, and maybe sooner rather than later. If you look 5 years ago, where we were and then where we are now, and then maybe 5 years in the future, things could change that way. We've already got one of the clubs having a full-time general manager, so we're definitely edging in that direction.
Fantastic. Now, the big question is Chris Turner going to make a comeback to coaching, or is it time for a little bit of spectating in the stands?
Yeah, definitely time for spectating in the stands. I'm keen to go and watch a few of Maitland's games this year, so I'm not going to be a stranger there at all. But yeah, I can't see anything in the near future. I'd need to do my B licence. That's not going to happen. We're only because we're going on a holiday at the end of the year with the family, and so I don't have the time at this point, so I can't see it now. Happy on the bench, mate, or in the stands for sure.
Well, thanks very much for chatting with us here at BarTV, Chris. It's been a pleasure, and we wish you best of luck for the future.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, cheers.
Okay.
Very interesting interview there from Jack. So thanks to Chris Turner for giving up his time to do that exclusive interview with BarTV. That was fantastic and really enlightening on the situation at Maitland and his thoughts about Northern New South Wales football and the growth in the area. Now it's time to have a look at the ladders. NPL is the first one on the list. Magic up the top with 11 points. Western on 10. And then Hamilton, Jets Youth and Edgeworth pretty close in there. Lambton Jaffers on 4. But they've only played the 3 matches. That's what we have to remember. The real worry that I should point out is Adamstown, that they have played the 5 matches and they're in 9th spot, and Maitland have only played the 3. So you could sort of say, depending on Maitland's results, that Adamstown are sort of in that red zone. Time to have a look at NewFM now. And it's been an interesting couple of weeks. Valentine have gone to the top, and Lake Macquarie have lost their last 2 in a row. So they've really slipped out of contention. If Valentine go anywhere close to how they played last year, you'd think that they'd be unstoppable from here to get through. Right, so that's it for our look at the ladders for this round. It's been great to have your company. Now, Emily, we are speaking to you on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So you need to give us a plug to tell all the girls out there why they should be watching on Wednesday night, and all the men as well, I should say.
Yeah. Just come and have a look. It's a really good competition to be a part of, and it's great to finally get some publicity for the girls. So if you have some time, make sure you have a look at the game as well as the halftime show. That'd be awesome.
So that's Wednesday night here on BarTV. It's South Cardiff taking on Charlestown at Lyle Carr Oval. So halftime. And if you aren't able to watch the game and watch the halftime show, you can just scroll the little... Actually, we will be putting it up. I should point that out. We will be putting the halftime show up on the BarTV YouTube channel. So that's all good. If you can't see it at the game, you can just watch it there online. Thanks for joining us for the halftime show for this Sunday's game. Until Wednesday night, it's goodbye.